Welcome to the Whiskey and Wisdom Podcast, coming to you from the Cargo District Recording Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina, where we discuss the most fascinating topics of life. I'm Tyler Yaw with my co-host, Chris Kellum, and each week we interview a special guest to learn how they acquired their wisdom over a glass of whiskey. So, sit back, pour yourself a glass, and enjoy Whiskey and Wisdom.
From the top, what was our first whiskey?
We are live. Coming from the Cargo District Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina.
I love today. We're literally just having fun today. Me and Tyler sitting here in the dark because if you guys didn't know, we set up this really cool recording studio for podcasts. And it is in a building that is slowly undergoing renovations. And currently...
So in realistic terms, it is under construction and we may or may not have power or lights or anything. And sometimes you hear our air conditioning in the background.
Yes, because we are literally starting from the bottom.
Now we're here. Almost.
This week we're just being a little bit random. I figured we got a bunch of questions that we had a Q&A for a couple weeks ago. But also, I was just thinking, what whiskeys have we actually had? I mean, we're 20-something episodes in. Might as well go down the list and like mark off. And we'll say, you know, what's our top three?
Yeah.
Because I know they're going to be different.
Definitely. Well, our very first, I know you can't forget, is the Hibiki Harmony that we had while we were at the, what was it called? Ballast, Hotel Ballast.
They changed the name. That's why I forget it.
That was the very first one that we had. And then next was with Thaddeus. And we were sipping on Bear Proof that week from Glacier Distilling Company.
Yes, the Huckleberry one.
Yep. Huckleberry Finn is the first thing I think of.
Bear Proof. That was a good one.
That's definitely on my top three. So when we get to that, sorry.
Slightly surprised on that one.
Jumping the gun.
And then
with Brittany Limeberry, we had Barrel House from Kentucky Bourbon. That is the one my sister acquired.
Yeah.
Let's see. Then after that, we had Palmer Grigsby on for the first time. And we had Knob Creek 9-year.
The classic. I just sipped on that last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's a solid kind of go-to.
Yes.
And then we had you on the podcast, Chris.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
And that's when we did Howler Head Whiskey.
Oh, yes.
Oh, by the way, you don't even know this yet. So since we are Howler Head ambassadors and Fight Week is when this drops, is going to be last week. But when we're recording it, it is this week. So I have a brand new large ass bottle of Howler Head. So we're going to have to crack that open at some point.
Oh, for sure. What are you doing Sunday?
You know, wonderful question. I don't know. How about what were we doing Saturday? What are you doing Saturday?
Well, Saturday is Grimberger's 1-year anniversary.
Oh.
So we're going to Flying Machine.
Maybe that's what I'm doing Saturday.
You should. We're meeting up at like 7.
I haven't had Grimberger yet.
Wait, what?
I know. I still haven't been able to make it out there yet. And it's necessity. And now that this is an option, it's probably going to have to happen.
Yes. And then you can go home and drink Howler Head.
That sounds good. Yeah. I'll drink that for the fight and do Grimberger and Flying Machine for dinner.
Yeah.
I like it. Plans, let my wife know. Next up was episode number 6, Jimmy Moore, and that was our Bullet Bourbon.
Oh, yes.
That's one of my favorite when doing a whiskey ginger.
See, we'll go into that too.
Yeah. Then after that, we had Joe Solomon, our first educator on the pod.
The Angels Envy.
Yep. He brought the Angels Envy on. That was very nice.
That was good.
That's one of my favorites too. I'm not sure if it breaks top 3, but it's definitely one of the favorites.
Okay.
And after Joe, we had on Raylan Morris when we were talking about crypto. And that was Eagle Rare.
Oh, she did get lucky.
Yeah. She didn't even know it was rare.
No.
All of these jokes would make a lot of sense if you guys listen to our podcast. So All right. So after Raylan, we had on
Salmon.
Nope. Second educator, Jake. Jake from State Farm is the way that he introduced himself to me the first time.
I remember that.
Evidently, I was slacking as a host, and I put 0 notes down.
Was it the 7, the one from South Carolina?
You might be right.
Because I'm pretty sure Sam, it was Virgil Kane, because it was Ginger.
You are right about Samet's. I think you're right about Jake's as well. I just can't remember. But that sounds about right, because Virgil Kane Ginger Infused Bourbon, also from South Carolina, is when Samet came on from the Elder Emo Hours.
Yes. Her podcast is doing legit.
They go live all of the time.
Yes.
I wish I had that time.
Well, so she really doesn't. Like she
she
gets off of work and then she'll go home and like they'll go live on TikTok or on Twitch or something.
Right.
And eventually sneak peeks. That could happen.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I literally have to get my computer fixed, but I've been thinking about that for a while.
We'll get that all up and running here soon. Since you said sneak peeks, something else I wanted to bring up. I don't know if this is a sneak peek or what it is, but I have talked about Billy Thorpe at one point. He's one of the other local podcasters in town.
Yes.
Just came back from Puerto Rico. So he always talks about Maven Coffee. And that's also in Wilmington by the refinery, which we'll eventually get to Emily Tippett, who her family runs the refinery. Her dad is the pastor there. But Maven Coffee is right next door. I did a post on Maven Coffee. If you saw that this morning. Yeah, so on Instagram, they have these, he calls them cocktail coffees. There's no alcohol in them. But the way that he makes them is like a cocktail. It's pretty crazy. So he hand curates these coffees from around the world, and he won't buy it until he goes to the actual place where the
roastery,
where they actually grow the coffee beans.
Sheesh. Yeah.
And then if he likes it and he likes the story, then he'll buy it. And then he brings it back and roasts it and everything, and then makes these cocktails out of it. So, like you've had smoked old fashions before. So he had this one, it's called the Campfire Coffee, and it's essentially just a s'mores coffee, but he smokes it the same way that you watch people smoke old fashions.
It seems like you would love that.
It was fucking fantastic.
I'm just looking at him like, yep, that's straight up Tyler.
Yeah. So fantastic. So like Billy will eventually be on the podcast and everything as well too. That's why it's like kind of like a sneak peek. And also one of the reasons why we started this podcast is because I wouldn't know what I know now if it wasn't for Billy, because he did a whole how to start a podcast.
Learning new stuff all the time.
Always. So with that being said, back to Samet. So that was the Virgil Kane Ginger Infused Bourbon. And we talked about the Elder Emo Hours and everything that she did there.
Yes, definitely check them out.
Definitely. There's some good stuff going on there. I always like following their TikTok. So if nothing else, if you have TikTok, follow their TikTok. Next was Emily Tippett. Go figure.
2.
And, so that was the 1233. We'll figure it out. And that's also when we acquired Raze Energy, come to find out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. First time that we put them on the podcast to give off 15% off of Raze Energy with promo code Wisdom.
So we're still doing that?
Still doing that.
Okay.
Yep, forever. They are a solid brand of ours. Back when we had our previous business idea that we barely got off the ground, they have been a part of us ever since then. So even before the Whiskey and Wisdom podcast, Raze has been supporting us. After Emily Tippett, we had Palmer Grigsby on for the second time, opening up about his mental health journey. And with that one, I also didn't put it down, but that was the one he brought. The reason why I didn't write one down for Palmer Grigsby is because I wanted to focus on his story and his story alone. And in lieu of the whiskey, I put the National Suicide Prevention Hotline on there, which is 1-800-273-8255. So that's why I wanted to focus on that more than the whiskey.
That makes sense.
Yep.
I'm just here to learn. Send it.
If you're feeling down and out. Don't go to whiskey, go to the suicide hotline, is what I was trying to accomplish there. It could help, just don't do too much. Anything in out of access is not good. After Palmer, we brought on Chelsea Hollis for balancing work and life as an entrepreneur. And that's the one where we had the Oak and Eden.
Okay.
For everyone that actually can't see us, we keep looking over at our desk that is full of whiskeys, trying to find out what we had during Jake's episode.
The real reason there's two. One, we're still arranging the studio, so we haven't found a space to just line up all the bottles for us to be like, oh, here, point it out. Two, for those who don't know, that was a double episode because we started recording that one. And we did the whole entire episode and realized that we didn't have the chip in to record. So then we had to do it again. And we also didn't have food beforehand. So if you go back and listen to it, you can tell we were on a vibe.
Yeah, you're right.
Similar to Francis.
Definitely similar to Francis. We're almost that one as well, too. But after Chelsea, we had on HP Fangs.
Yes.
And with HP Fangs, we had the Double Oaked Woodford Reserve. Fantastic whiskey as well, too.
That was a good one.
Yeah. And if anyone who doesn't know, he actually started his own studio inside the Cargo District as well. And so he has everything set up there. It is called Do Art, and primarily focuses on a lot of children and students that are doing art to express themselves. And the only piece of artwork that we have up in our studio right now is from HP. So highly suggest check him out. His stories are fantastic. I didn't even tell you this. So during his interview with us, he talked about how when he was going through the art gala thing that they set up, there was someone that came and was like, oh my gosh, you're the butt person.
Yes.
So that person reached out to us on Instagram and she was like, I'm the butt person who asked about it. So that was super exciting to get that full circle there. And I had a chance to talk to her and everything. So that was a lot of fun. She does a lot of cool stuff too. So I might drop her in the show notes as well.
Yeah. I ran into somebody else who's over there at the exhibition. She also has a spot technically in the Cargo District, 3 doors down from HP.
Oh, okay.
And she's a very interesting name, and I'm not going to butcher it, but I'll find it. But she takes recycled or non-recyclable plastics and turns it into artwork.
Oh, that's neat.
So she was working on Willie Nelson.
Okay.
When we went in, and she just was like, well, she had a bins of all different color stuff. So she's a mom. She's like, man, I got all these plastics and toys and I can't recycle them.
Wow.
So she took it and broke it down and been making stuff. It's pretty cool.
That's interesting. The next one we had on here was Catherine Bruner with the Four Roses Small Batch. Catherine is actually my real estate agent. She's a real estate agent on here. We mostly talked about networking. And I was like, gung ho. I'm like, I need to buy something. She was like, would you slow the fuck down?
Yes.
I was like, take your damn time. Find something that you actually want and need here. Don't be diving into shit that you don't need.
Don't be like those kids who are like, oh, I need to get married out of college.
Exactly.
Which we're not saying don't do that, but sometimes you just gotta.
Yeah, you need to know and take a step back.
Yes.
And after Catherine, we had on Frances Spivey.
Yeah.
And that was the Larceny Small Batch, was the whiskey. However, she made us
she made her own version of an old fashioned.
Yeah.
With some bubblies.
She added that Sprite into it.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. I never would have put Sprite in an old fashioned.
No.
I still don't think I ever had before, or after.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's different. It's certainly different.
It pushes that summer vibe kind of drink. I'm like, I could deal with that.
Yeah, it definitely takes it out of the realm of a traditional, a bourbon cocktail and moves it into just a summery vibe cocktail that you would get at a beach bar type of thing.
Yep, we did that.
And after Francis, we brought on Sean Batts
Oh, yeah.
And he brought us the Buffalo Trace.
The local boy coming in with the good stuff.
Yes, thank God, because I still haven't been able to find that in a local ABC store.
To go 2 counties over or 3 counties south.
To South Carolina?
Yes.
And pay like $80 for a $30 bottle of whiskey.
I mean, they're not all upcharging.
And then you can't find it.
Yeah.
But when we brought Sean on, we talked a lot about Port City and professionals and his business. And we were trying to low key or maybe high key force him into making a YouTube channel called The Whiskey Hunters to find those.
He should. I'm still,
dude.
We're going to tag him in this just to be like, yo.
Yeah. Jump on
a sneak peek.
And so I was traveling, not a lot, but relatively locally, but went to a bunch of different counties this last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I should have had a camera on me doing it because I went to like all the ABC stores that I could. And I felt like I was part of the Whiskey Hunters that he wants to create. So I was like, we need to get this happening.
You should.
They had some good whiskeys out there, but the ones that they did have were like the super expensive ones. So Catherine Bruner wanted us to bring on the confiscated, Kentucky Yaw Confiscated.
Yes.
And I still haven't been able to find that yet. However, Kentucky Yaw has a double rye.
Okay.
However, it was $330. So
was that in North Carolina?
In North Carolina. So that was retail.
So that's more expensive than a Blue Label.
Yes. They also had Blue Label there.
Yeah, Blue Label was like $250.
Yeah. It was something close to that. But yeah, when I saw $330, I was like, ooh.
I don't think my accountant will let me write this off.
No. We need more sponsors.
Ooh, but what if we use it at like a whiskey and watches evening?
Possibly.
Then we could write it off.
Could.
Ideas.
Yeah, for everyone listening, I'm going for my CFP certified financial planner. I can't legally tell you who I work for, but one of the things I saw, the reason why I bring it up is I'm going through tax and tax deductions. Yeah. And the one thing I was reading today is if it directly goes to your bottom line and it's part of your business, you can write it off. And I was like, if we drink it, that's direct bottom line.
Correct. So,
we just need to find an accountant that agrees with that.
I got somebody. I'll ask him. Oddly enough, for a person who like doesn't really deal with anything much, which is me, I actually know like at least 2 accountants. I got one who does my actual taxes, and I know somebody else. I'm like, hey, I got a question.
That's the best way to do it. Going back on to our
So we did Buffalo
journey.
Trace with the local boy Sean.
Exactly. And after him, we had Erica Stillman, and that's when we did the Tullamore Dew XO. That's still on my bottom 3 list.
The XO is on the bottom.
The XO is on the bottom, not Tullamore Dew. XO is on the bottom.
Okay. Let's see. We'll go back. Go ahead.
But we also talked about Milwaukee's Best on that one.
Marketing at its finest.
Exactly. But then after Erica, we brought on probably our second or third. It's probably tied for second or third most popular episode was Chris Lecoe.
Yes.
And he brought on his favorite, or one of his favorite bourbons, which is the High West Burr Rye.
Is Burr Rye not Boo Rye?
I don't know.
I don't know. I was just
High West, if you're listening, let us know. And
tag us.
Exactly. And he was the one that started with Andy's Burgers back when it was Andy's Burgers.
Yes.
And it grew from that and went to the Highway 55s and had a bunch of those franchises and is now working on what it's now called Leland Brewing Company, but was originally 726.
Yes. Leland Brewing Co.
I'm so excited for that. It'll probably not be up ready to roll until like January of 2023. But since I live super close by and there's no breweries, that's like what I'm looking forward to.
Oddly enough, I think it's like split between the difference for me and you.
Yeah, you know what? You're probably right.
because you live that far past it,
Yeah.
and I'm on this side. I'm like, technically, I'm close enough.
Exactly. After Chris, we had on Shannon Bray, who is the Libertarian candidate for the U.S. Senate in North Carolina. And we were sipping on regular Tula Mordew, which I like significantly more than the XO.
Understandable. And then our most recent
episode is TJ Dunn, and which is currently called Slowing Down with TJ Dunn.
You really got to slow down. Drinking the... Go ahead. What do we drink?
Yeah, we had the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. And not only is he talking about slowing down the life and kind of taking in everything and just the way that he approaches life, but also when you're sipping on Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, you got to slow down drinking that too.
Yeah, I found out the hard way. I almost died.
I did too. Yeah, I think we both tried to drink it too fast at one point.
Because we're used to taking normal sips,
right?
And I mean, I just take a big gulp, and that stuff just He was right. It coats your mouth with just so much flavor. Yeah, you got to slow down. Weldon Mills.
That's what it was.
Sorry, Jake.
Yeah. Well, after
that was a long day.
It was early in the morning. I didn't have enough coffee. I had drank twice, all before 11 o'clock?
Yes.
So that's it is what it is type of thing.
All right. So,
but today, Chris, after 23 minutes, what are we sipping on?
So we're going to add one final one to our list before we do our top three. And this one is Monkey Shoulder, which Tyler's looking it up. And I'm like, I've seen it around. I've seen it at the bar, on the little things where they mix their drinks. This is Monkey Shoulder with little monkeys. It's kind of cool. But I didn't realize that it was created to be a mixing whiskey.
I didn't realize that either because I had tasted it before and I was like, this is good. It's just different. I don't know why it tastes so different. It tastes very sweet. So after we looked it up, it literally says, as soon as you go onto their website, Monkey Shoulder, made for mixing, 100% made for mixing.
So what are you have it pulled. What are the flavor notes of this one?
This one's all over I'll just read it straight from the website because I don't want to mess it up. So from the top, it says Monkey Shoulder was originally created to make perfect whiskey cocktails and has been made for mixing ever since. Put your nose in the glass and you'll smell zesty orange, vanilla, honey, and spiced oak. Take a sip and you'll taste mellow vanilla with spicy hints.
It's literally what it says. Spicy hints.
Spicy hints.
What kind of spicy? Is it like a spicy accountant hints?
No, not like that kind of spicy.
Here,
a little bit of sriracha spicy.
Huh, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Well, cheers.
I definitely do get the spicy hints on the back of it.
Yes. So comparatively, this one is I'm made for mixing. Some of the other drinks we had, I feel like are good mixing whiskeys, despite the fact that they aren't labeled that.
Right.
Like the Tullamore XO, which I know is not near your top, but I feel like that would be a good, if someone likes whiskey but wants it in the summertime, I feel like that'd be a good one.
Yeah.
Because it definitely has brighter citrusy notes. And to me, citrus summer goes together. There's another one we had. Oh, the Virgil Cane. That is definitely a Virgil Cane and Tullamore Dew, different sides of the same coin. But I feel like both of those mixed with ginger beer would be on point.
What did we have last week? We didn't mention that yet.
Who did we have last week?
The Mike Blair.
Oh, man, I'm slacking.
He had wild turkey. It was the version of wild turkey.
Did he?
He brought it in.
Oh, it's because it was wild turkey.
Yeah, so it was a special version of wild turkey. And Mike Blair was the one who won our Woodford Reserve giveaway.
Oh, yes. Oh
It
my
was
God.
literally
That was
last
good.
week, and we have already forgotten. It was a fantastic whiskey.
That
too.
was so. I can't believe I forgot this one. That was Long Branch
Yes.
because Matthew McConaughey is the rep,
Yep.
or like they're something or other.
All right.
Yes, sir. And he was like, "Hey, they reached out a long branch to connect so we can make this happen." That thing was good.
That's right. Yeah, it was very good.
Good enough to be top 2.
I don't know if I put that in top 2. It's definitely in the top 5, but we're not doing top 5 today. We're doing top 3.
I mean, we can do top 5. We got other things to talk about before we get to it. So,
Yeah, we'll talk about what we got talked about, and depending on how long that takes, we may do a top 5 or a top 3. We'll find out.
I can't believe I forgot that one. That was so ridiculous.
That was good. All right, but we reached out to you all. I threw in some questions that I just get on a weekly basis anyway, and I also asked some Q&A questions from you all as well for us to throw on a Q&A podcast. So here we are. And our question number 1 is the most asked question, I believe, at this point. What's your favorite whiskey you've had on the podcast so far?
Ooh, see, so that's a hard one. I don't know if it would be, so I want to throw out one that's like my favorite, but wouldn't be like my number 1,
Okay.
which seems kind of weird to say, only because it's just so different. I think my number 1 for just like chilling, living life, would probably be the double oaked Woodford.
That is probably going to be on the top 3 if I decide to, that's what it's going to be by the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
But for me, anyway, the High West Burreye was by far my number 1. And if I could ever find that outside of North Carolina on my journeys, that's going to be the first thing that I buy.
See,
That-
and
Good.
that's why I picked double oaked, because you can get double oaked in other places. Like, people, try this out for real.
Yeah.
A Burreye. I'm
Whatever
here to
you
mess
decide
it
to
up.
call it every day.
But the High West, you could
Yeah.
only get it out there.
Exactly.
And,
like,
seeing as how I'm in retail, ain't no way I'm getting out there during that time.
yeah, if it's out during, yeah, because that's right. It's during a special time too when they do it. So like if I ever were to head to Texas or Utah or wherever they sold it, I'd have to do it at the right time. So that's a good point.
Utah. Outside of Salt Lake City.
If I ever get to Utah at all, it's not top of my list of states to go.
Why not?
It's cold.
You can go snowboarding.
I did that enough in PA.
There's so much food there, though.
There is. But see, going up a mountain to snowboard is like annoying to me because it's just like you get like 30 seconds of fun and then you're like,
That's why I said food.
yeah, I know. I can go other
There's
places
a lot of
for good
hiking,
food.
too, though.
I would go to Arizona for food.
Huh. Never thought about that.
Mm-hmm. They have a very good Mexican influence down there. And if you have like a really good, authentic Mexican food, that's my favorite.
I did know that because the last season of Top Chef was filmed in Texas.
Mm.
They were like, oh, because it was the second time they went to Texas. And this one, I think, was technically Top Chef Houston.
Okay.
But their finals, like they do their top 5 and they take them to a different place because they're still technically filmed during COVID. They couldn't go anything crazy. So they took them to Phoenix.
Okay.
And oh my gosh, some of the food there was legit. They
can
literally
imagine.
met this lady. You'll have to, I always suggest watching Top Chef because it was like one of my favorite shows of all time, just because it's different. I like food competitions, and unfortunately, me being me and a Sagittarius, I just don't care about a lot of people. So it doesn't add in that whole like, oh, hey, well, so-and-so is a mother of like 7 and she's here. No, it's like, no, I'm a chef. Let's get this.
Let's get it in, yeah.
And that's why I like it. But yeah, no, they met this lady and she legit did like, she air dried her meat, like stuck it above the building, straight up air dried it.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, that looks so good.
I might watch it then because I'm used to like most of those chef shows being like, let me give you like 9 hours of a backstory every single episode. And like if I'm going to watch like a cooking show, like cook.
No. Top Chef is quick fire. And they're like, hey, here's your challenge, make me breakfast or, make me the best small one bite, mise en place, something crazy.
Yeah.
And then, all right, so you won. Here's your next move. Let's go. get an idea for your meal. You have to feed like 45 people. You have 3 hours of prep, and they'll talk to you about like what they're making. And then it's showing them like doling out food.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, man, y'all got to come up with ideas off the dome like that. Like,
that might be something I have to watch now.
There's only like 19 seasons.
Jesus.
So you got plenty of shows to watch, plenty of episodes.
Just for everyone listening to, like, this is why we started a podcast. We started out with the question, what's your favorite whiskey? And here we are talking about Top Chef and Mexican food. So on to question number 2 with that being said.
Okay.
What has been the most valuable podcast episode for you personally?
Ooh. Okay. So personally, the episode where I felt like I learned the most from just somebody in general, I'm going to go back. So I think our conversation with Thaddeus, and mostly because it was like our first one, and I was like, technically it wasn't the first, but I learned so much just by listening to him, and I've talked to him since then. Yeah. And it's just been a very interesting person to get to know. But after that, the next one, I would throw up either Catherine or Francis, represent military.
Yeah. So for me, I would definitely say probably episode number 2 with Thaddeus as well. And for the same reason that you said too. So not only did he bring value during that first episode, but also just the current friendship that we've had going on with him. It feels like that episode just continues on. Because every time I talk to him, no matter if like we bring up something important or not, like he's throwing fire all the time. Like he's always bringing up something like thoughtful or something he's like been thinking on or chewing on. So for me, that's probably been the most valuable just because of the continuing of education I get from Thaddeus. Yeah. With that being said, too, he actually reached out to me today and he goes, when's episode number 2? So I was like, we'll get that set up. Don't you worry.
Episode 27.
27. Okay. So for us sitting here now, that's like in 2 episodes or 3 episodes. Okay. It's like 6.
Here you go.
Not quite, but yeah, it's something around there.
I picked 27 because he was episode 2. There's 52 weeks in a year. Split that at 56. And episode 2, you move forward on. That's where I got the number.
Yeah, that sounds good. I was thinking in like weeks that we recorded since we recorded batches. And I was like, not quite that far out. Anyway, outside of Thaddeus, though, I would probably go with, it's probably a tie between Palmer's second episode with his mental health journey. And then also Erica Stillman's Take Time for Yourself. That was our longest episode.
Erica's.
I can
see that. Mm-hmm. That was a ride.
That one was fun. We went up and down, left and right, and everywhere with that one. But there was so much good stuff just the whole entire time going through it because that's what her business is.
Yes.
So it made a lot of sense. And so after that, this is kind of the same question, but go ahead.
Before you get to question number 3.
Yeah.
What is your number 5 rated whiskey that we've had?
Number 5?
Yeah. You got 10 questions. Might as well do 5, 4, 3, 2.
Yeah, might as well. My number 5 would probably be...
I know it's a hard one.
Yeah, number 5. This is going to sound crazy, but probably Buffalo Trace.
Okay. I mean, it's crazy because everyone looks and like, oh, it's Buffalo Trace. But it really is like a good entry-level whiskey.
It's just hard to find. That's where like the value comes from. It's just hard to find. It's good. It's solid. It's definitely a good entry level, like getting into the whiskey game to understand what a good whiskey is.
Yep.
And bang for your buck, I would probably put that at number 1. But overall, from what we've had, I'd probably have number 5.
Okay. So my number 5, oddly enough, is not the same.
Go figure.
My number 5, Oaken.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
That was solid too.
Solid whiskey. You technically can find it almost anywhere. And Oaken also has a rye version that you guys should try. So I'm here to throw out plugs, help everybody.
That rye is pretty fantastic. So I would agree with you there. Question number 3.
Let's go.
So very similar to number 2, but there is a difference.
Okay.
Just favorite episode that you enjoyed sitting on.
Like sitting around chilling?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's hands down easy for me.
I know it.
HP.
Drop it. Yep.
Yep. That was such a vibe. Like, he came in and we just had so much fun. Like, before, during, after. Like, he was
all of it.
He has an energy about him.
Yeah. So, like, full disclosure, when we do some of these, we do them in batches. Mm-hmm. So we'll interview multiple people at the same time. So Chelsea Hollis was leaving when we brought HP in, and he like became best friends with her while we were talking, and we were vibing with them and everything. And they're like, all right, I guess we'll get started with the episode. And then we went and we had a fantastic time just talking to him in general on the episode. Afterwards, Catherine Bruner comes in, and then they started talking like they've been best friends since they were 2. And it's just because they're both really open, like hilarious people in general.
Yeah.
And they got along fantastic. So that was fun too. Like, I wish I could have had that on audio. Like that was a hilarious time.
It's just interesting. So everyone looks and they're like, oh, I always laugh because a lot of people I know are very, very religious. Mm-hmm. And I look back and I'm like, I'm religious to a point.
Yeah.
But I also believe in energy, just because there's too much out there that would throw it off. And certain people come in and they just have like a frequency, and they're I'm like, man, his energy length was just such a level that it just rose. Like chilling, talking to Chelsea, we're laid back, just having a chill conversation. And then he came in and I'm like, man, I'm awake. Like, it just, I don't know. So, certain people, like I said, just have a different energy level. And if you look at it in life, which I always think is kind of funny, that there are people who, if you look at and realize they are energy vampires.
Yeah.
It just makes me, that's why I was like, that has to be a real thing. Like, there are certain people, like, their energy, all they do is just suck it away from other people. And then people are like, why are you in such a bad mood? Oh, you were with so-and-so.
Exactly. Yeah. You can tell every time.
So, or why are you in a good mood? Oh, you were hanging out with that person. And certain people, like, you're on the same vibe. And that's where the joke, or you're on a vibe.
Yeah.
Like, it's a real thing. Some people just have a different level.
Exactly. When it comes to vibes on a different level, since you already took HP, I don't want to be like a copycat on different things. So, like, same concept as a favorite, but a different style of vibe. I'm going to do 2 for 2 different reasons.
Okay.
So the first I'm going to say is Shannon Bray, only because yeah, I mean, he's first of all, like, the libertarian connection, like, that was awesome. But beyond that is, like, he's the only person we brought on that's Twitter verified with a blue check mark. So, like, that was pretty cool. He was on his own vibe that we got to kind of listen to and whatnot. But the other one, the most chill one, I think, that we've had so far was with Chris Lecoe. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. We ended up sitting here and talking to him for another hour after the podcast.
Yes.
And, like, it was just so much fun, just chill, kind of hanging out, just continuing drinking the Burr Rye and everything. So that was just fun.
So I think my second favorite would be Brittany.
Yeah.
I mean, she is a good friend, but it was just so fun because she was just like, she was so bubbly when she came in, and I was like, thank you, for supporting your friends who have no idea what the heck we're doing. But yeah, no, she's super fun. She's done so much since we last talked to her.
And the other thing too is, like, you wouldn't know this because of the way that we put these episodes out, but she was actually the very first person that we interviewed on the podcast. So that was another thing too, is just being able to have, like, a very good friend of both of ours sit in there and just chill and talk.
Yeah.
That was really nice. If you're looking for a, like, high quality real estate team, the Diane Castro team that she's on in Wilmington, North Carolina, no matter where you are in the world, Google search it, you'll find it, because they have YouTube shows, they have TV shows, like, they are some next level, like, incredible team that's going on over there.
Like, they're actually featured in 1, if not 2 episodes of, like, a TV show talking about, like, the American Dream, I think. And then they actually put out YouTube videos. Obviously, people don't check everything for YouTube videos, but, like, their videos are actually kind of cool. Like, they're snippets. They get you a good angle, and it's nice to, like, hear somebody talk about real estate. And I'm like, oh, hey, she lives in this area.
Yeah.
It's not like watching those shows on HGTV, and I feel like they bring the guy in from like 6 countries away or 6 counties. You're like, oh, hey, I need you to help me buy a house. He has no idea what's going on.
Yeah. On to the next one.
Send it.
Completely off topic of podcasting. What's your favorite quote?
I have a couple of favorite quotes.
Yeah.
There's my favorite one from like when I was younger and a straight goofball. And I will never forget this from Top Chef, because they used to do a Top Chef, like an episode at the end of the season. We're like, hey, bring everybody together. Let's chill talk. And one of the dudes literally had someone ask him like, hey, what's your type? And his response was, beauty's only a light switch away. I tell you, I legit died laughing. And I was like, that's my favorite quote for the longest time. Just because it was so stupid.
That's completely different than my favorite quote.
But no, my favorite, I have 2 quotes that are totally opposite. And both of them are from movies because I watch a lot of those, or I did. Knight's Tale, when old boy was like, you have been weighed, you have been measured, you've been found wanting. I always look at people and I'm like, man, like there's so many people I would just, like in my head, I do that to them all the time. I'm like, I ask you to do something. I get you. You've been set up for success. You have all these opportunities to learn, and you just fail.
Yeah.
So, yep, you were found wanting. And if I could just kick you in the throat, I would. But
right.
That's not my vibe. Secondly, my wife hates me, but I do have this quote on my arm that says, do or do not, there is no try.
That's a top one for me too.
I got that tattoo, and I'm like, it was a time in my life where I needed to push myself.
Yeah.
And so I got it, and it's on my forearm. So if I'm looking in a mirror, I can read it. And I'm like, this is actually a thing I do and think about in my head. So if I try and do something, I always joke with my wife, I'm like, you're not trying. You either do it or you don't.
Yep.
Yes, you get to a point, like if you fail, you didn't do it, but you learn from that situation.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
So I always break it down for that. But my wife hates me because I got this tattoo, and she's like, oh my God, you like Star Trek? I'm just kidding. She said Star Wars.
I was like, no.
No, she actually loves Star Wars. She grew up watching it all the time. And she's like, oh my gosh, you're a Star Wars fan? And I was like, well, actually, I'm pretty sure at the time, I didn't realize I'd seen all the movies. I was like, I don't know if I've seen them all. I just like that quote.
Oh, no.
And she's like, oh my gosh, you're such a poser. I have seen them all now, by the way, just so you guys know.
Just make sure, throw it out there.
Yes. So what's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote has been back since probably like sophomore year in high school.
Okay.
And it is, be the change you want to see in the world, by Gandhi.
Are you sure he said that?
I'm pretty sure he said that.
Okay.
There's multiple sources.
I don't.
There has been a few quotes lately, though, that have been attributed to wrong people.
Yes.
That I've been noticing. And I was like, not quite, my friend. Go back another 50 years.
It's so hard nowadays because everyone's like, Google. Yeah, but everyone knows to look up Google. And if someone's smart enough, they can just put whatever they want to at the top. So
yeah, you pay enough money, you'll get your search at the top, and it may not be right.
Or you know enough code.
That too. Yeah, let's be real. But yeah, I mean, and especially now, it kind of fits. I mean, when I first read it too, is like there was times like in high school, I was like, oh man, that'd be nice, but I'm not going to do it. And I'd be like, and then I saw that quote and I was like, okay, like if I see something that needs to change or that even something small. So my friend brought this up because when I told him back sophomore, junior year of high school, like this quote, about a year later, he came up to me and he goes, remember that quote that you told me? And I was like, I have no clue. I'm a quote guy. So like, I don't know.
Let's
and he
go.
was
What
like,
you got?
he was like, be the change you want to see in the world. And I was like, yeah. He goes, did you know every time that I come across a piece of trash on the ground, I have to pick it up now because of you? And I was like, and you're mad about that?
Yes, because you forced him to change his mindset about letting people just walk through it all.
It's one of those things too. And it's true. And ever since he said now that back to me, every time I see trash on the ground, I have to pick it up because it just kind of continues. So for everyone that listens to this, when you see a piece of trash on the ground, pick it up.
I'm so happy you did not say the one quote I was expecting.
What's that? That was probably my top 5.
Not all those who wander are lost.
So I wouldn't say that's on my top 5, but it's an interesting. I like that one because it's an interesting thought to ponder.
Okay. It is a good, you're right. It's a good thought process. You're like, okay, you're true. A lot of people who are wandering through life aren't actually lost. They're just wandering through life to learn things and gain experiences, which I never thought of until like just now because my brain thinks that quick some days. But there's so many kids who have that tattoo.
Really?
And they're so I remember one of my friends, when I got my first tattoo, he went with me and he has a map and a compass half sleeve. And he has that quote, not all those who wander are lost. And before I even knew he was getting it, I was like, man, I kind of want that quote. Then I saw it and I'm like, no, can't do it. And then the year I got ended up with 2 or 3 other tattoos. And that was the year it was top most basic tattoos. That quote. And then there was a globe as one of the most basic, an owl as one of the most basic, and an arrow.
Is that just kind of how you choose your tattoos? Is how am I going to be the most basic this year?
Nope. I literally got the globe because my friend was talking. He's like, he was going to get the globe on his back. And then as he hit countries, he was coloring it in.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's legit. I'm not doing that.
Right.
I know my personal self. I'm not traveling that much, but I got it because I flew around the world.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And as a joke, it was in 80 days. It was pushing 300. But that's why I got it, because I think it was cool.
So we're getting close to our time. So let's do a rapid fire for a couple, and then we'll do the last couple will be longer form. When are you bringing on the wives?
Ooh, did your wife ask this?
She fucking did. And I was like, we're going to call it White Claws and Wives. We're going to sit down. We're going to talk for an hour, and we'll just do what we're doing now and bullshit.
Sure. Or sure, it should be wine and whiskey.
I like that too.
Because Emily doesn't really drink White Claws. And I also don't want to support White Claw because it's way too fucking basic.
Fair.
And wine, you have a little bit of variety.
That's true. Yeah. I don't want to put myself with a brand too that's not paying us.
No. So wine and whiskey will be a feature in the next couple months as soon as Jennifer can get a babysitter.
Yeah.
For both the kids.
Yeah. That's pretty much the situation we're in. All right, on to the next one. Why did we start the podcast? That's a longer question than I wanted to have right now, but here we are.
So if you've ever listened to the podcast, Tyler brings this up all the time.
Yeah.
But I think even back when we were working together, we were like, oh, we should do something together. Didn't know what it was supposed to be.
Right.
But I definitely remember you hitting me up like, yo, you want to start a podcast? I was like, sure, let's go.
Yeah.
And it did take... If anyone actually knows us and follows, if you look, it was a full year plus from us talking about it, trying to figure out what we needed in general, and then asking everybody, what are names? What are titles? Who should be here? Should we have a third? What are we going to do? But Tyler mentions all the time the why.
Yeah.
Which is, I was letting you tell me.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Our why for this podcast is networking and building community. Yep. And that's the main reason why we started the podcast, is to build our network and create a community around people that you can come here every single week, that you have Chris and I that you can trust, and that we're going to bring on someone who, one, may challenge your beliefs, may confirm your beliefs, may bring something that you don't know, may bring something that is completely surprising. Yep. So we want to build the community out, and especially we're bringing a lot of people from Wilmington on right now that may change. It may stay the same. We're not sure yet. We'll see how it evolves.
Yeah. I mean, my why was just to sit down and enjoy just growing as an adult. A lot of times people they're just stagnant and they don't try and learn anything in their position, either at work, they're just doing the same thing, flipping burgers or picking up a car, dropping it off. But I feel like I wanted to do the podcast with you because I knew we'd talk different things, and because we're at different spots in life, we could help build each other up and educate people.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, if you go back to our very, very, very first episode, that was the number one thing we talked about, is asking questions.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, is sitting down, asking questions. That's why when you hear our podcast, you don't typically hear Chris and I talking as much as our guests, because our job is to ask the questions. On to the next one. Let's see.
Can I plug this?
Sure.
So I've changed my favorite quote.
Okay. That was quick.
And I mean, this one, you can ask Emily. I would say this all the time. There are 3 sides to every story.
Yeah.
Yours, mine, and the truth.
Yep.
And I've been thinking about that because so many times everyone's like, oh, well, so-and-so, or they did this, or they, I'm like, I'm going to go ask you and the person you talk to, and I'm going to figure out taking both sides because everyone sees things through their lens and their point of view, be it political, be it religious, be it whatever. And especially this past like 6 months, I've seen it more and more, obviously, of like, yeah, they're definitely not just your point of view is the truth. So
you got that right.
I had to change it. That's my quote.
Perfect. I like it. Next question. What wisdom have you gained from the podcast?
Oh, I've gained a lot. I think my biggest takeaway has been patience and also just fuck it and go do it.
Yeah.
Because so many, like, they both seem like counterintuitive to have patience, but also go do it.
Yeah.
But when I say patience, it's more so when I'm going and say, fuck it, just do this. Like, let's start this podcast. Let's start a business. Let's do something. You have to have patience and know that nothing happens overnight.
Yeah.
Unless it's like Shiba Inu, like Switch. But that's where I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is that everyone they've grown and they've done so many different things in their life, but it wasn't like right away. They've put in the effort, put in the time, but they had to just go and do it.
No, yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things. Especially, not only is that something that we learned just putting it all together, but it's something that I think a lot of people gain from just listening to the podcast and hearing the stories. Is they started it. They had a feeling. They knew that's what they were meant to be doing. They started doing it, and it doesn't happen overnight. It may look like it happened overnight, but it didn't. And you get these from these stories, and that's what I really wanted to pull out from these people as well. Beyond that, something you don't see from the podcast on our back end, and I had learned this previously, but like there's some things you just need to relearn over and over and over again.
For sure.
And one of the things that I relearned is just ask. If there's something that you need, ask for it, because the worst thing is going to be no, and you're going to be at the same spot that you were to begin with. And if you get it, which happens more often than not, you get something else. Yeah. We have a sponsor right now that just sent us a free type of whiskey because I just asked. Yeah. And we'll probably gain a lifelong relationship from them.
Yeah.
So,
and it's not like I just laugh because you're like, if you ask and they say no, you're in the same spot. No, you're not technically. Because if you ask and they say no, you've moved a step forward because you've learned that person said no. Yeah. So you don't ask them, you ask somebody else. Or if they say no, your next question should be why?
Exactly.
Or what can I do to get you to say yes?
Yeah.
Which works in a lot of situations, not all.
Yeah. And to that point too, one of the things that I learned from one of my very first sales jobs, our regional manager always said, wreck the Pintos, not the Ferraris. So if there was something that you wanted to try that was new and you didn't know if it was going to work, do it on either one, like a small account that wasn't like a big deal, or do it on like if someone came in, like we both worked in jewelry.
Yeah.
And if someone came in, like, the tire kickers, like we know the tire kickers. If there was something that you wanted to try to see how people reacted to it, try that something new on that person. Like, what do you have to lose? Nothing, because they're coming and kicking tires anyway. So it is what it is. On to the next one. If you could talk to anyone famous who has passed away, who would it be?
Who has passed away?
Yep.
Oh. The real question is, what's the definition of famous?
That the overwhelming majority of people would know.
Ooh. Easy. All right. So, Thurgood Marshall. It's awesome. Tyler's like staring at me. He's like, who?
Sorry, I don't know who that is.
So, for those who don't know,
the name sounds familiar, but
Thurgood Marshall was a justice on the Supreme Court, and he was the first African American appointed,
and then voted in. Yeah,
to the Supreme Court. But yeah, no, it's interesting because he's a person that a lot of people like people just assume, oh, they're famous, and a lot of famous people make a lot of money. But I like to ask people or talk to him, because I feel like he had a lot that happened during his lifetime that made a lot of change and had a big effect on my lifetime. So that's why.
I'm going to tell you not my answer, and then I'll tell you my answer. Because this first person,
Okay.
like if I could still somehow be able to pin him down and ask him questions because he's still alive, which is why it's not my answer, is Thomas Sowell. So he's a famous economist. He's very well known in like the libertarian realm because he's very much liberty focused.
Yeah.
And
I've seen him on TikTok for some reason.
yeah, so one of his famous quotes that I love is "No solutions, only trade-offs." I'm pretty sure I might have even said that to you at one point. But yeah, I would love to talk to him. Very similar. His background and everything that he went through was just incredible where he came from.
Did you know he was born in Gastonia?
I did.
In 1930.
There's a documentary about him. I've watched that. Yeah, that's why.
Black Rednecks and White Liberals. Those are books by him.
Yeah. He has a just incredible life. Like you could easily write a whole movie about him.
I mean, probably. I was just curious. I'm like, why does this name? That's why.
Yep. But to my actual real answer, it would be Marcus Aurelius, one of the emperors of Rome.
The Marcus Aurelius? Ooh.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I read his Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, and it's crazy to me how, like, translations, of course, it went from Latin to English. Yeah. So take that with a grain of salt of what it may be. But it's very close translation because people that know Latin put it to English. It's just the vernacular that's different. Mm-hmm. But his thoughts and meditations and what he was going through thousands of years ago is very similar to what we go through today. So to be able to write something that's so timely from 100 AD to 2020 AD is amazing to me. And to be able to have a type of wisdom that will last that long is incredible.
Very interesting. So very different.
Yeah. Yours is more kind of nuanced and practical to now, and then mine just kind of over time. All right. Next one. What do you hope to see for the podcast in the future?
I hope to see myself on camera, potentially, just depending on layouts. I'm sure that if we ever expanded the studio, totally do that. But, we always have things working. But I think for the podcast in general, I think having I look forward to seeing like a celebratory, we hit 100.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, that's almost 2 years.
That's almost 2 years, yeah.
Of recording, or just having like the growth in the community where we actually have like people asking us like, so what's your choice? What do you think about this whiskey?
Right.
And I can be like, you know what? I ain't never tried it because I ain't got that kind of money. What about you?
Probably the same thing, just kind of being kind of more on a shallow level, is just kind of being like that resource for people to go to. Like, hey, what do you think about this whiskey? What do you think of, like, should I try this? How should I drink this?
Yep.
But on more of like a business level, I would really like to start working with more different companies, not necessarily like sponsorship or monetization wise, but just to kind of build that community that we talked about. So just kind of bring it all together is probably what I would hope to see for the future of the podcast. Next question. I'll try not to make it too long because it was focused towards me. Is you talk so much about 75 hard. What is it?
So me and Emily talked about this. I was like, eventually I'm sure I will have to do that. But it's a great mindset and change. My friend Asia, who will be on here eventually. Yeah. She's going through that. And it's definitely a mental shift.
It is.
When I talk about or mention like vibes and like not energy transference, because I'm not on that level. I don't know anything about that. But it definitely changes your vibration. Yeah. Because it slows you down and it gets you back to the roots of pretty much health.
Yeah.
Mental health, physical health. I know you talk about it all the time.
Yeah, so the main tenets of 75 Hard, it's actually a full program, the Live Hard program, and there's multiple other steps to it. 75 Hard program is just the first step. What 75 Hard is, you have to find a diet, stick to it. You have to drink a gallon of water every single day, and there's a workout that you have to do inside, workout you have to do outside. So 2 of them every single day for 45 minutes at least. 10 pages of reading.
Nonfiction
of
That's
reading.
the hardest part for me.
So it has to be business or self-help.
Okay.
And the other one that conveniently is last for us is no alcohol. So we'll figure something out for that next time we do it.
Ooh. What if, all right, hear me out. What if we found a sponsor that made non-alcoholic alcohol for us to try? Non-alcoholic spirits.
Yeah.
And because, I mean, they're all terminologies. And technically 75 days is like 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So reality, we only have to get someone to sponsor us for like 4 weeks. Because if we do a batch at the beginning and then we do a batch midway with like non-alcoholic,
Yeah.
it's doable.
I like it. Makes sense. Let's do it. We'll have to choose the month that we decide to start it in.
Yes. We actually also need to find a sponsor.
That's true. I have a few people up my sleeve. We'll make it work.
All right.
And last and final question of the night is how do you see your growth in the next 5 years? Just as you, not podcast, not business, just you.
Well, hopefully I see a decline in my belly fat. I feel like growth in the next 5 years, I am looking to establish my watch collection.
Yeah.
Just because I like watches. They do go almost hand in hand with whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
And figure out the next step. I would love to have within 5 years. I hope that the recording studios is running smoothly.
As smoothly as you can have any business run.
Yes, and I would hope to have a few more stamps on my passport.
Yeah. One of the things that I know you and I can both appreciate because of the manager we both had. So one of her things is kind of having 3 tenets of what you're focusing on. And even before I met her, I always knew I could do 3 things efficiently. And once I started branching out the 4th, 5th, and 6th, I knew I couldn't do it as efficient.
Yeah.
And so the 3 things I'm focusing on now is business, faith, and family. So those are the 3 things. Before I had kids, I was able to say like, hey, spending time with family is easy. I can fit that in. Once you have kids, it's an actual priority.
Yes.
So I had to, instead of having like a 3.5, it's a strict 3. And that family has to be part of that 3rd. But yeah, business, faith, family. And if you wanted to do like a 4th overall for that for me, and it kind of fits in all 3 of those in my mind, is fitness as well. Because if I'm not feeling my best, if I don't like working to my prime physically, I feel like I can't do those 3.
I can see that.
So that's kind of where that comes in. And in order where 75 Hard comes in to play with all of this, because we got to turn back on and talk about that again.
We need a sponsorship.
I know, right? He gives it away for free. So he's like, I don't need to pay you. Anyway, is being able to create that time for you to be able to accomplish your 3 tenets of life is a big thing. So my time is my physical fitness time, because that's how I can get myself grounded, get myself feeling good and everything. So if you want to put a kind of overarching umbrella on top of those 3, that's what it'd be.
Nice. I get to ask you the fun. What's your number 4?
Number 4, I wrote these down because I knew we were going to go through this again. Woodford Double Oaked.
Okay.
You're number 4.
Hold on. I had to look at it because I don't have the space. I didn't bring my stuff to write it down. All right, so I will go with Howler Head.
That one's a solid one too. With Howler Head, it's I want that to be part of my like top 5 or top 3. It's just so unique and so different, which is why I want it to be part of that. But when it comes to like whiskey, it doesn't fit that. Or bourbon, it doesn't fit that. But when it comes to overall experience,
Yes.
it's 100% in my top 3.
Okay, so if we're going on that route, then I'll go barrel proof.
That's my number 3.
The Elijah Craig.
I'm glad you brought that up. So Elijah Craig is a barrel proof is my number 3.
Okay, this is the fun thing is both of us have such very different like palates because I think what did I say for 5? Is that Oak and Eden?
Yeah.
So I think my 3 would be double oaked from Woodford, just because. Oddly enough, I have the traditional Woodford Reserve, like the tall bottle at the house.
Yep, me too.
And then when we tried the double oaked, I was like,
it's a whole nother level.
Those don't even taste the same.
Yep.
I was mad at my life because I had the double oak first, and then I had regular Woodford Reserve. Woodford Reserve is good, but double oak.
It's hard to go backwards, but when you look at the price difference.
Yes, that's a big difference. All right, so those 3. What's your 2?
So now that I just made fun of you for doing the Howler Head whiskey, my number 2 is Bear Proof.
Love it.
So, and the only reason why I put that as my number 2 is because that's anytime anyone goes to Montana, I have them pick up Bear Proof for me. And
do you have more than one bottle?
I have 3 bottles.
Bro, you need to let me know next time you got somebody going there because I need at least 1 bottle for the studio.
Well, yeah, we'll get that. And I have 1 full bottle, so I might have to bring it to the studio so we can continue to sip on it. But the reason why I like it so much is because I also love ginger beer.
Okay.
And we may have talked about it, but Bear Proof and ginger beer is my favorite drink by all means.
We talked about it during that episode.
I thought so.
That was about it. So my number 2 is the High West. Boorah.
What makes that your number 2? What'd you like about it?
It was just so smooth. And if my number 1 is also a very smooth one, but I just liked it because it was just chill. Yeah. I could definitely, like I said, when we were drinking it, I was like, man, I could sip on this, like sitting by a campfire, like if I got a fire pit out back, which might happen eventually, but maybe not if I haven't kids, because that's a hazard.
Yeah.
But it's definitely more of a chill, sit down, have a friend over, let's pour a drink. I mean, I got a bar full of whiskey, and there's very few that you can just sit back and be like, yo, here, have a sip.
Yeah. That's also like affordable, and you don't feel like crying if you hand it to a group of 6 people.
Yes.
Yeah, because we both have a few of those, and like you're not going to pour 6 shots of those.
I still have a bottle of Glenfiddich, 21 year. I'm like, I need an occasion to open this. Like y'all ain't just getting me to open this for nobody.
Maybe when we hit a sponsorship milestone, we'll bring it up.
So your number 1?
My number 1 is the High West Rye.
I figured that was.
Yeah. So my favorite type of bourbon in general is rye anyway.
Okay.
And so with that rye, it is the smoothest rye that I've ever had. And so you kind of get you get the flavor for sure. You get the smoothness, and then you also kind of get the little extra flavors on the back end. So you get a full flavor.
It is definitely full flavor. So do you really think that like rye bourbon is still bourbon?
For me, it is anyway. That's my favorite by far.
You're not considering rye as a separate category?
Typically, rye is a bourbon.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just asking because, I mean, some people like, so you got whiskey, which could be the overarching. Then you got bourbon, you got rye.
Yeah.
You got Irish whiskey, and you got Scotch.
And Japanese whiskey.
True. With the Y?
Yep.
I don't know why I did that.
Why not? We've been drinking.
So my number 1.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is?
I don't have a clue.
Bear Proof.
No shit.
No, that was my favorite. Surprisingly enough, it was so smooth. It was so clean.
It is.
And especially because like when we drank that, the only real whiskey I had before that was like Jameson.
Yeah.
Or like Crown. And both of those we'll have on eventually, but they're not like sipping whiskeys.
Right.
But that was just, it was smooth. It was clean. To me, that's a summer whiskey.
Definitely.
And seeing how it's hot here all the
I was going to
fucking
say,
time.
yeah, especially today, we're just constantly sweating when you step outside.
Yes. I'm like, that's something I could go and be like, yo, let me get a sip of this and be okay with. Also, I'm just a fan of like fruit flavored finishes. And if you guys haven't noticed, Tyler is not the biggest fruit flavored finish person, similar like with the XO. And there are different whiskeys that have certain things in to finish and flavor wise. Like Tullamore Dew, the reason they do the XO and the Caribbean rum cask is because they have more fruity undertones. Yeah. I like things that are citrusy because despite being born in November, I'm definitely a like citrus lover, which I got to ask you that question later one of these days.
Yeah. Well, we have surpassed our time that we were planning for today.
Which is all good. That's the point.
It's fine. That's kind of what happens every week anyway. So this is where we're at. So thank you all for listening, learning more about all of the whiskeys that we've had on here. A quick synopsis of everyone else that we've brought on the pod. We officially, before this episode, we had brought on 21 guests.
We're legal. Our podcast is legally allowed to drink.
To finally drink.
If we count guests as people.
Yeah. So by the time this comes out, it'll be quote unquote our 23rd, but it'll be our 21st guest. Yeah. So that was exciting. Thanks for listening to all of that. If there was someone that we talked about that you want to listen to, we'll have those links below. And hopefully you learned a little bit more about our favorite whiskeys that we had and what we enjoyed about everyone. If you like this, let us know. If there's something else you want to listen to, let us know. Yeah. And according to the poll that I put out, the random conversations were your favorite, followed by self-help. There's a little bit of that in between too.
Yes.
So hopefully we'll do a nice balance for you all for that, thrown in with a little bit of business and a very small bit of not politics necessarily, but something similar to the feel of that maybe, if that gets brought up.
Yeah. So I get to finish it off. Thank you guys hitting us up, listening to the podcast of Whiskey and Wisdom. I'm going to plug myself every week from now on. I will be posting my favorite whiskey.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not my favorite. I will be posting a whiskey and a new watch that is coming to the shop.
Hell yeah.
Because, if you need a watch and it's actually available, I'm your man.
Yep.
Don't ask me about like a green dial, Daytona or some BS. But yeah, come check me out on social media. I don't actually know what my thing is. I'm pretty sure it's like CT Kellum or something.
I think it is right now.
But find me on social media. I'll be posting whiskey and watches on Wednesday because why not? Alliteration for the kill. But thank you guys all for listening and sitting with this silly conversation we had today. We are linked up with Raze and Bones Coffee. 7, 6,
15.
What's 15?
That's how much you get off.
I was like, I'm looking at it backwards, so I would have done 1 and 5. So sorry.
Gotcha.
So on Raze Energy, use code WISDOM, get 15% off your order. That stuff is amazing. Pretty much the only thing energy drink wise Tyler can drink without catching a migraine.
Yep.
And that kid gets them all the time.
True.
Bones Coffee, hit it up with code WISDOM as well. Sends you great flavored coffee straight to your door. And who doesn't like getting good coffee and not having to fight the crowd? And Folgers is just poop. Let's be real. But yeah, we will see you guys next week, or hopefully you'll hear us next week. I don't know if we'll actually see you.
Probably won't see us next week, but hopefully in a few months. But you will certainly hear us.
Thank you guys for joining. Cheers.
Cheers.